Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live stream. We're delighted you're able to join us today. We are thrilled to be hosting the absolutely spectacular Judith Guthrie of Nose Dogs Detection Services for our live stream, talking about finding the balance, supporting, covering, and directing. Very good stuff. Judith, can you just do me a real quick favor? Can you just do a wonderful introduction for yourself as I try to get us connected to all the different services and technology wants to be dumped today?
Sure. Okay, so the part I love the most, talking about myself. All right, so I am a detection dog trainer. I breed, raise, train, and otherwise develop mainly Labradors or other floppy ears for various government agencies, from local police departments up to national agencies, such as national federal, such as TSA, DoD, Customs, USDA, etc. That's my working dog side. My sport dog side, I'm a judge for multiple different associations. I have competed myself with several dogs. I'm currently coming up or bringing up a beagle named Shrimp that some of you may have seen. She's the little one in the picture. Ignore the cats that are going to be making cameos the entire time we're doing this, because they think that this is the best thing ever. Um, Other than that, yeah, that's me. Anything set work, I apparently love it so much that I will do it all day and then go out in the rain at midnight to set hides for my own dog. So there you go.
That's passion for you. So again, we are very fortunate. Judith has been incredibly generous with all of her time and knowledge over the years. She has a huge library of stuff that's been offered through Setwork University. So if you haven't checked out one of the things she offers, you definitely want to make certain that you check that out. I'll put a link inside the comments in just a second. But the big thing about Judith is she does have feet in both realms. She does stuff on the professional side. She also does stuff on the sports side. On the sports side, she does it all. She's a competitor. She's a trainer. She's an instructor. She's a trial official. She's an everything. So we are very, very fortunate to learn everything that we can from Judith. And that's why we were delighted to talk to her today about this really interesting topic that I think is a real bugaboo for a lot of people, where they go, I don't know what to do. I thought I was supposed to support, but I also need to cover my search area. And I also sometimes need to direct, or should I not direct? What am I supposed to do? So that's why we want to talk to Judith today. So, Miss Judith, as we're starting off, could you just maybe define some of these things so that people would have a better understanding of what it is that we mean when we're talking about supporting or covering or directing?
Yes. All right. So I'll do one at a time, and if I somehow get distracted from one of the words, just make sure I cover all three of them. Okay. So first off, supporting my dog is the act of basically being my dog's perfect personal assistant, right? My job is to make sure my dog has what they need when they need it to be successful at their job, which is finding source or finding odor to find source. Um, there's a bunch of different ways we can do this, but that is what support is. It's doing whatever my dog needs in that moment, which can look like many, many, many different things. And I understand why that's confusing. We'll cover more about what that means later. Covering means getting into any and all areas of my search area which are potentially productive, meaning it is an area that, if odor exists, is findable in that space. So if I have a corner as an example, and I have, we normally have airflow in our areas, even if we think the area is still. So a corner would be potentially productive because it's giving two or more solid objects that odor, if it's moving through the space, will start to trap and collect in. So it's a potentially productive space if odor exists in that space. And then directing is the action of making the suggestions of where your dog needs to go if they have missed something. So I want to stress, when I say directing, I don't mean that we're going to do an old school 80s V pattern narcotics dog, Miami Vice thing. Our job is to say, hey, I noticed when I was observing you doing your thing, and I was doing my part of support, which was noting where we have and haven't been. And then when we were covering spaces, I noticed that we missed that cubby over there and that we never got into a high vertical plane. So now I'm going to direct you through either movement of my body, point how my feet, hips, shoulders, or hands are pointing, or even something as blatant as a presentation to get you into the space that you missed so that we can finish coverage so that you can do your job.
Perfect. So, as far as how people may confuse some of these things, or they just feel as though my head is going to explode, because these
Yeah.
seem as though they are very contradictory. I'm supposed to be supporting, but I'm also supposed to make sure that I cover everything. And I may need to direct, but I couldn't over direct. Judith, help me.
Yes. Yes. Um, that help you is a big statement. So give me a little bit more. I,
Sure. So let's start with the supporting part. So
okay.
it's my job to figure out where it is that I've been and where I haven't been. But at the
Correct.
same point, if I'm supposed to be covering the search area, but my dog is blatantly not interested in a whole part of the area, or they may have traveled through it and been like, yeah, there's nothing there. Am I supposed to be going back there because we haven't really searched it, quote unquote? They just traveled through? Like, how do I find that balance just between those
Okay.
two?
So I'm going to back this up for a minute and I'm going to lay a picture that I want you to think about as like your default for how you're going to work, because that's going to play into how we're going to offer support, coverage, directing, etc. Okay. When I'm working a dog or when I'm working with my teammate, my expectation in a search is that my dog is going to default to independence. That means I need a dog who is going out and doing the thing without me or without my direct input initially. They know they're part of the job, they know they're part of the game, and they take off and they go out and they start hunting, right? They don't need me telling them how, when, why, etc. They just go out and they hunt, right? So that is the default picture that we want to build in our dogs from the time that they're baby dogs, the first time they ever see primary odor, whatever. Then I want a dog who understands that if I'm hunting and I'm not finding anything, so I'm actively hunting, but I don't have odor, then if my human makes a suggestion for somewhere to go, i.e., the humans notice that we haven't gotten that corner, as an example, I'm going to willingly go where my human has suggested that I go so that we can get into that space. The moment my human stops making a suggestion, or the moment I have odor, I'm going to default back to independence. So the moment my human stops making suggestions and I'm still hunting and I have no odor, I just default back to independence. I default back into my hunt and I just keep going. I keep hunting. If my human makes a suggestion and that suggestion happens to lead to odor, now, whatever my human says, I'm also ignoring because I'm using intelligent disobedience. I'm paying attention to my hierarchy of behavior and I'm following odor to source. So, what my human said doesn't matter right now. If if my human perceives that I'm hunting and they make a suggestion, but in reality, I was working odor and the human just didn't recognize it for whatever reason. We're all learning, right? Sometimes we miss it. Then I'm also going to deploy my intelligent disobedience and I'm going to ignore my human. I'm not going to go where they're suggesting and I'm going to continue working my odor picture to source. So I want you to think about this for a team as a default picture of this is what we want. All right. Now, if we have this picture, if this is the picture we've been building, if this is what we've been supporting in our dog, now when we start talking about coverage, supporting our dog, offering direction, we have a framework to plug that into. So it's not just what do I do with this? We have a framework, we have an expectation, we have a hierarchy of behavior, we have an alignment of purpose between dog and human. So now we can plug this stuff in. Does that make sense?
Yes, that
Okay.
absolutely makes sense. And then people are going to say, but now I don't know if I have those things.
Fair, fair. Um, and that's a process in itself, right? To build independence and all that, and to teach the action of of intelligent disobedience, etc. I don't know how deep you want me to get into that right now.
Not a problem. So we will actually just plug that Judith did enormous, wonderfully detailed presentations talking about hierarchy of behavior and intelligent disobedience. We'll make sure we'll put links of those inside the chat too.
Well, there you
So
go.
if there you go. So if you have that stuff and
Hmm.
you're pretty sure that, okay, if the dog is in odor and they're working odor, they're going
Yes.
to say, I'm going to default to that. You do whatever you want with your silly human self. I'm doing this.
Yes.
And that if they're just moving through the spaces, they're hunting for it, but they don't actually have odor, they could be open to a suggestion. If
Correct.
you're in that situation and you recognize that your dog had moved through a space, but you didn't show any kind of odor behavior that you saw, but maybe you're
Hmm.
missing a hide, or even worse still, you're trying to clear a space where you don't know if there are any more hides. What is the decision process as far as determining, well, I have these three things I get to choose from. I can support my dog, I can cover the area, or I can direct. Which one
Okay.
should I be doing in that point?
So I'm going to look at that moment, I'm looking at area coverage because a dog moving through a space and a dog hunting a space are not the same thing. So I'm going to say, and part of this is learning to read our dog, which takes is a process and we don't learn it overnight. All right. But I'm going to try to say, all right, did my dog move through the space or did my dog hunt that space? Additionally, my default, so if we're talking area coverage, we've already defined that as potentially productive spaces. So my default for potentially productive spaces are going to be corners, thresholds, multiple vertical planes, so high, low, multiple horizontal planes or deep, and then my random thing in the middle. Sometimes we have an item that's away from all the other things, and sometimes it doesn't give clear lines of back. Like you might not find a clear line of odor back to source. You just might be in a cloud occasionally, depending on your environmental factors. So we want to make sure that we give that a cursory actual look. And then depending on what your airflow is in the space, and I mean airflow, not just wind, because airflow and air movement happen in interiors, containers, buried, etc. as well. I need to make sure that I get into the downwind or the downwind currents of my airflow so that my dog has a chance to work back up. It's the worst thing ever if you're doing a container search and you're missing hides or a hide, and then you're like, and you run out of time and you realize I never was on the other side of the bags. I was always on, side A, but the airflow was pushing, so the odor was only available on side B or something like that. So I'm going to say as my default, all right, I need to think about my coverage. And my coverage is going to tell me, I'm going to think about these things for what my coverage is and what have and have not done. If I know there's a hide out there as an example and I'm missing it, it means I did not do one of these.
Perfect. So I think that leads in nicely into this next little bunch of questions that I have for you. When we're thinking about supporting, oftentimes when people are thinking about, you laid out really nice definition, but their mind goes right into helping. I'm
Yes.
trying to help my dog, and that means that I'm supporting my dog. So can you talk about how it is that maybe they can differentiate the two if they should, and give some examples of how they could potentially support the dog in the way that you're thinking about it?
All right. So support can mean a couple different things here. The first thing I'm going to say is that you need to understand that sometimes support means doing nothing. And in fact, if we're not in a trial situation, if we're in a training situation and we're trying to allow our dogs to gain the skill sets needed to be able to be successful in a trial situation, a lot of times the best support you can give your dog is doing absolutely nothing, no matter how much you think you should be doing something, and allowing our dog to process and work through the puzzle on their own so that when they solve it, they solved it. We didn't shortcut the process for them. So that's the first thing I'm going to say. The next thing I'm going to say is a lot of times when it comes to support, I tend to default to a very simple rule, and this can look like a lot of different things. But the rule is I'm going to do as little as possible and as much as I absolutely have to. So that means I'm going to do what it takes for my dog to be successful. And I'm going to do as little as possible for that dog to be successful because I want them to be successful on their own. Commonly, this is going to look like things like anyone who's ever worked with me, I bet if there's people here, they'd be like, oh, yeah, this is a thing. Because I'll tell you, take one step, take a half step, rock your weight, right? Open your foot, right? Like I'll be like, take your left foot and point your toes toward that chair or something. Like I'll give them something, but they're not even moving it from where they are. They're just pointing it in a direction and opening their hip, right? A lot of times that's how small support could be. It could be my dog, and I will also say this, like there is a little bit of a gray area if I'm offering support as my dog's working odor, because say I need to know my team. Maybe my dog has a bubble, right? And they're like, hey, I don't like being more than 10 feet from you or 6 feet from you or whatever it is. And so it could be that my dog's working odor, but I needed to take a step forward to offer them the support for them to say, like, okay, cool, we're here as a team working this puzzle, right? Or it could be I have to take a step over so that I can push them, put a little bit of pressure and push them, not in a negative way, but just be like, hey, get in the corner, don't cut the corner, right? Something like that. It could be something as simple in training, don't touch your search area in trial. But in training, it could be something as simple as I might take, like, I might lean on a desk and like just take my hand against the wall and just like tap it a couple times, not as a presentation, but just to like draw their attention up so that they go, oh, wait, there's another plane here. Because sometimes plumes don't drop or they don't rise. Sometimes they're traveling on the ground or they're traveling over the dog's head, which is why vertical and horizontal planes are part of the default um, potentially productive spaces, right? So step one, do as little as possible, no matter how much you think you need to do something, because the human brain will typically say after 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute, whatever it is for you, because everyone's a little different, it's going to say something, nothing's happened yet, must do something now. I have to do something to fix it. And that's where you have to go, like, I need to take breathing, maybe some meditation breaths. How do I practice patience again? Like, it's a thing.
No, I think that it's a very good thing to point out because, particularly when we're training, right? We've set the hide, we're maybe working on our own, and we put that hide out there. And there's a lot of investment in that where we are concerned, like, oh, I don't want to break my dog, or I don't want my dog to get sad, or whatever the case may be. And the dog goes off, and already we're like, God, it's been a million years. And they haven't found it yet. And they just started. So it can
So
be
I'll
very,
add
very painful for us. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I'll add 3 things. If the dog is still working, you don't have to do anything, right? If the dog is still actively working, like they don't look confused, they don't look lost, you don't see frustration building too much. A little frustration is not bad. So if you don't see frustration building too much, you don't see the dog's energy becoming depressed. And I don't mean therapist depressed, I just mean like they're losing energy, right? If you don't see any of that, stay out of it. You don't need to do anything. Um, seriously, right? The next thing is a lot of times when I'm actively attempting to assist a dog because maybe they're starting to give me repetitive patterns, they've run out of idea, they don't have search expansion, anything like that. I'm typically not attempting to put them on source. My job as a handler is not to put my dog on source. It might happen, especially in a trial or a blind. Like I might be like, hey, we skipped that corner and you make a presentation or you take a step in and your dog's like, bam. And you're like, ooh, I didn't mean to do that. It happens, right? However, my goal is to put my dog into a plume, right? I'm looking for potentially productive spaces, not items that a hide is on. Therefore, I'm trying to put my dog in a plume. If I'm training, I'm attempting to draw their attention to where a plume is present so that they can catch the odor and work it back to source. I don't
Perfect.
have the desire to put them on source.
Awesome. I think that's a really important distinction. So, as an instructor, have you noticed anything where people have, maybe a trial or even a training, accidentally taken the step into the corner and then the dog did hit the hide? And now you start seeing like a subconscious, I will step into all corners at all times because I want to see if it magically results in a hide.
The dog or the human?
The human.
Yeah. I mean, if it just like anything else, right? Like the human was successful once or twice, and they're like, it's how do we get people to play slot machines again?
Yes. So I think it's just an important thing for people to keep in mind is that we are very susceptible to superstitious behavior too. So this is where videoing your searches can be really helpful. So that if you notice, like something else that Judith was not mentioning is that whole idea of a reward clock for both the dog
Mhm.
and the human. Is that like, okay, after 10 seconds, I'm stepping into the corner and be like, okay, well, that's an important thing for you to point out that maybe your dog was on the other side of the search area working odor and you just felt uncomfortable. And they're like, magical corner step time.
Yes. Yes, that is definitely a thing.
Perfect. Can you talk a little bit about the reward clock really quickly? Because I'm sure people are like, what the hell
Sure.
is that?
Yeah. All right. So, from the dog side and the human side, we just kind of interpret it a little bit differently or use it slightly differently. But basically, it's this idea that your dog, we'll use the dog to start with. Your dog says typically, because we inadvertently end up giving them fairly consistent intervals for how long it takes them to find hides, especially in the beginning. And so a dog will start going, "It's been 30 seconds and I haven't found a hide yet. So now I need to start doing something to make this happen." Whether that means that they're offering experimental behavior, m- whether it means they stop hunting and start throwing obedience behaviors out at you because that gets them cookies all the time, right? uh, Maybe that's the dog starts getting more frantic, or maybe the dog gets depressed and they're like, nah, maybe it's just not worth it today because I haven't found something in 30 seconds. And so we have to recognize that. And then our job is to help extend that reward clock out so that they have the persistence and the tenacity, and they have the comfort, like they're comfortable saying, they have the internal hope, eternal hope, and internal optimism that they're like, if I just keep going, eventually something will appear, right? And that's what we want to extend that so that they're like, nope, I can just keep going. It doesn't matter how long. I know it's going to happen eventually. I just have to do it. And then the human side is kind of the same thing because we get endorphin rushes. We get all the same dopamine hits when our dogs find hides. It's one of the reasons that sometimes when people go up in the levels, they're like, blanks feel bad, blanks hurt, right? And it's not because of the blank, it's not the blank's fault. It's because you've trained yourself that the really important or positive thing about that search is the find. And so when you don't find anything, you're not getting that dopamine hit versus training yourself and helping your dog learn that the hunt in itself is a fun activity that your two-party pack is doing together. So that's really, really important.
I think that's really crucial. And it's such an important distinction. It sounds like, oh, we're just talking about semantics, but we're not. Those are actually two very separate things. Being able to really embrace the search, embrace the hunt, as opposed to just putting all your hopes and dreams on those finds. Because, first of all, you may not find all the hides. You may not want to find all the hides, particularly in a training situation. Your dog may do something absolutely amazing with 3 hides for a 6 hide search, and you may just want to cap it off right there. And
Yeah.
you don't want to find those other ones. So I think that's a really brilliant thing that Judith was just pointing out is being able to, from the human side, be able to really encapsulate the difference between those things and recognize that yes, it's absolutely possible for our dogs to have like the example she was giving. Hey, it's been this amount of time. What gives? It's the
Yep.
same thing for the person too, and that can affect our decision processes as far as what it is that we're doing. So I think that leads into nicely into my next little question for you is with all of that in mind of we're trying to figure out, okay, I have kind of a better grasp of the supporting thing. I'm really thinking about this reward clock stuff and I'm watching my dog and I'm trying not to interrupt them when they're in odor. But I still have this whole coverage thing. Like I go to trial, I get back my score sheet, and it says I didn't cover my search area. Oh, there's so many things for me to do. So what are
Yes.
some of the suggestions that you have as far as when and how someone should be covering the space? And does it depend on the search element?
Okay, so it can depend a little on the search element, but that's more that you are modifying your plan to what you have, right? Your checklist. I like to think of it as a checklist, right? Because I'm not going to go in and say I'm going to do step one and then step two and then step three. Because the first thing my dog's going to do is say I'm going to do step G, and I'm like, I had numbers, not
Right.
the what's happening? Yeah, so I go with a checklist instead because then it doesn't matter what I check off as long as I check it off before I'm done. So I'll look at a space and I'll say, all right, I can just go with my default, or maybe I'll look at it and I'll be like, ooh, that's a weird L around there that's part of the search area. And I need to make sure I add that specifically as a get the L or get high, or that intake is sucking and like sucking in instead of pushing. And so I need to make sure I get over there so that I know the line or whatever the thing is, right? Or there's a weird wall, whatever. Pick a thing. So I'm going to have this checklist and I'm going to go in and I'm going to let my dog do their thing. Again, independence first, right? So my dog goes in and they start hunting. And as a caveat, I'm going to add that I've also done hide placement to teach to also help build the importance of these potentially productive spaces so that they're not just potentially productive, they also have very consistent and extensive reward histories for pushing into these spaces on their own, which helps to encourage the independence, right? Because I didn't say go here and then they consistently get odor. I placed hides so that when they go there, and I left them alone in training with patience so that they figured it out, they were successful and it was rewardable. So they have an extensive reward history. So now I'm in trial or whatever. My dog's going out, he's working, he's being independent, he's pushing into most of the spaces without me, which is fantastic. But maybe I noticed that he hasn't gotten low, like he hasn't hit a low vertical plane on the left-hand side of the classroom, right? And maybe for whatever reason, I'm like, oh, okay, we need to make sure we get that. So, first thing that happened is I had a checklist. I trained ahead of time so that my dog wanted to independently hit most of those things. And then I stood back to the best of my ability because the farther back I am, the more I can see and the slower my brain can go. Instead of me going, wait, but there's a dog and it's spinning underneath of me, I can be like, nope, but my dog's like 10 feet away and I can see them, right? So now my brain doesn't have to go as fast. So now I'm marking all of the things that we've done. And then I can say, oh, now I can say we didn't do, or he did not on his own go on to the left hand side of the classroom or hit a low plane, or he cut that like teacher's library cubby corner in the classroom, right? Something like that. And so then I can say, checklist says I need to do these things before I can call finish. I'm going to go, maybe as my dog comes around, I'm going to think about it like, what's a good way to put this? If anybody here's ever driven a like truck and trailer, and the trailer's longer than your truck, and so your rear wheels of your trailer do not go where your truck went, right? You have to think ahead. I know that isn't perfect for everybody, but you have to think ahead to try to get the rear wheels where you want them. So maybe as my dog comes around, I take a step forward, backwards, or to the side so that now I'm suddenly pushing my rear wheels, or I'm pushing my dog into the space they haven't covered yet. Or maybe I'm going to do something as blatant, depending on the situation, as taking a step in front of them and then turning out and over so that they step in. Or maybe something even more blatant, and I go over and I actually make a presentation and I'm like, hey, buddy, go here, right? Just it depends on my team and our team language and communication and what our tool set is for which thing I would do. But then I say, so now I watched my dog be independent. I made note of where we haven't been. Then I made active steps to bring my dog into the spaces we haven't been in. And now I can make choices on if I'm done, or if we need to do another space that was not checked off on my checklist.
Perfect. So I'm assuming that all of this is something that we should have been practicing and training first.
Yes. For
So
anyone
then people are
listening who can't see the head nod.
so that's where people go, but I don't know how to do that because when I'm setting my hides, when I'm training, my dog goes out and I'm doing the stuff that you said, right? I'm standing there, my dog is working independently, they drive into the space, boom, bam, done, and they found it. And they didn't cover 90% of the space. So what is it that I'm supposed to do? What are
Okay.
some of your suggestions? What should they do?
So there's a couple things. First, we can think about our environmental factors to change how we're setting our hides so that our dogs have to work a little bit harder. We can work blanks, and or we can also ask our dog to continue working past the point they found the last hide. Because let's face it, if you don't know how many hides there are, you're not going to stop because you found the last hide. Like, once you get past NW2 or advanced excellent, but even excellent, if you're an interior, right? Like, you don't know. And so you may be asking your dog to search past that. And I'm going to tell you an uncomfortable truth. Once your dog is past a certain level where we've built your dog, we've built the importance of odor, and we've built some resilience in them, there is a certain point where sometimes we just have to practice skills for us. And we're going to set our hides to the best of ability to support the dog in that. We're also going to plan our search training plan so that maybe the search before it is something that's super supportive and rewarding for the dog. Maybe the one after it is. But we might have a search where we actively over search the search area. No, I'm not telling you to go do that over and over again. But you may need to do it some so that you learn how to do this skill, so that your team, you and your dog, can build a language, a communication, and alignment of purpose and understanding, right? So there's a period where we may have to do that. And that's not the only skill that you may have to do that on. There's multiple skills out there that you have to actually take some time and learn how to do it. And that either means setting your search area or your session up for it, etc., or understanding that specific search or that specific training day isn't about the dog. And while we need to keep the dog happy, confident, etc., we're going to be doing some stuff that maybe isn't what our goal is for how we want to handle overall, because we need to learn the skill and we need to get it from theoretical to subconscious competence.
Right. And that takes repetitions, correct?
Right.
It's not just from osmosis. We can't just, read
I
something or
wish.
hear something.
I wish I could just be like, here's the theory, go forth, my chicklets, and it would work. But you have to actually do it.
Perfect. I think that leads in nicely to my next little question for you is getting into a little bit more detail as far as directing, as far
Mhm.
as how and when. So what are some of your thoughts on that?
Okay, so again, we can go back to my trailer analogy if we want. You can also think about it like you have a little stick, right? And like you're trying to put I don't know, you're trying to put something on the end of I had a perfect analogy that had a stick a while ago and I can't remember what it was. The point is, like, one of the things we can do is by the way we're moving, we can step forward, backwards, or side to side in such a way that will put enough pressure on them and on what most teams have some variation of bubble, so that I can either draw them to me. Stepping backwards normally draws them to me. Stepping forward normally pushes them out, right? And then side to side can draw or push depending on where they are in relation to your step. So one way I can direct is just by doing that and trying to visualize the arc or line of movement that my dog is taking, especially if they're on a leash. But even if they're not on a leash, this still 100% works. And you can draw, push, or whatever to like try to thread the needle with your dog. Like you're visualizing, I need them to go there, and then you figure out how you're going to do that. So that's one way. And you can practice that without odor, like just taking your dog for a walk and being like, I want to see if I can get them between those two trees or whatever.
Hmm.
So that's one way to direct.
Okay.
Another way to direct is variations of, like I was talking about before, like where your feet, hips, and shoulders are pointing is going to open and close things to your dog. You can think of any of the agility people out there, or anybody who's ever worked horses is going to have a really solid concept of this. But if you don't, that's okay. I just want you to picture like a line coming straight out of your belly button. And then I want you to picture like some little, like lesser radius lines coming from your hips and your feet. And so if you open your toe, it opens the line and opens the like partial circle bigger. If you close it, it narrows it down. So that's another version of direct. And then something that I can do that's a lot more blatant would be something called a presentation. I know in the scent work world, in the nose work world, these can be seen as like completely evil things that are going to eat all of us, apparently. I know boogeyman in the night. And they're not. They're actually extremely useful communication between your team. The part that you have to understand and remember is that if you're using them, you have to actively train them. You have to actively train your canine partner what they mean. You have to learn how to use them appropriately, and you also have to proof them appropriately. So it's basically a whole new form of communication for you and your dog, and you guys have to come into alignment of understanding. So yes, you can 100% cause your dog to false using presentations. If you just go, you didn't find it and it's on this chair, I'm just gonna show you the chair. And then every time, I don't even have to do that a lot. I could do that 3 times in a row without ever doing anything else. And now my dog's like, if you point at it, I should sit. That's because you didn't introduce and use it correctly. It doesn't mean that the tool is bad. It means that you've misused the tool.
Right. Who would have thought?
I know, right? Annabelle, don't eat the. Sorry, the cat wants to go bird hunting.
That's okay. Not a problem. We totally understand cats and birds. So the thing that I have always that's been interesting for me is that we're giving all this advice for our clients and for our students, and then they actually tackle a search, particularly a trial, and let's say something goes left. The dog was invested in something that happened inside of the environment. Maybe a car backfired. Maybe a cat ran through the search area, whatever. They've collected the dog and they've done a reset. What are they supposed to do at that moment? Because many people then say they're now in control mode where they're trying to control the situation and they're leading off immediately. And now the dog is deferring to the person almost by default because they needed to for the reset. How do you thread that needle so that you can potentially say, all right, I need to get way over there, away from whatever this boogeyman was, and we can go back to work?
So do you remember when I said in the very beginning that the first picture I wanted you to see was I have a dog who defaults independence, who we've taught that I'm allowed to take over the search to an extent by making suggestions, saying, go here, do that, whatever. And then as soon as I stop doing that, they immediately go back into independence mode.
Mm-hmm.
If I build that into my dog when they're in training, so that this is a way that we communicate, it's an expectation, it's the way we work, then when that happens and you have to collect and direct them, you already have built that habit into your team. So now all I have to do is say, hey, I need you to go here, do here, pay attention to me, whatever. And as soon as I'm done doing that, they default to independence because that is what we've built as a habit in our team. Now, if that's not working, you can also reset all the way back to however you start your searches. So, if you use a search cue, that's fine. I tend to really rely on situational cues. So I will use Souk, Seek, whatever, Google, go fish. I've heard all sorts of cues. I don't care that much for the word. I'll say the word, but I don't care that much about the word. My cues are normally about like, we pause momentarily. I have slight pressure on the collar. My dog reorients. Words are not coming out right, but you don't know what I mean. Into the search. Maybe I see their nose go for a minute and I release. right? Like that is my cue. Words are secondary. And so I can reset all the way back to what my dog knows. And in addition to that, if the same dog is like, but the bird, I can say, okay, fine, I will take over for a short period of time. I'm going to put you into actively productive spaces, and I'm going to have the pause in between each one, like a momentary pause where I'm reading how my dog's responding. And if my dog goes, oh, okay, I got it, we're hunting, then I can immediately back off. But
Okay.
again, all of those things only work because the very first thing I said has already been built as a habit and expectation within my team.
Right. So, would it be advantageous for people if, again, they've been building up that expectation in their training, but they are thinking forward ahead where there are going to be things that happen at trial and they're like,
Yeah,
oh,
of
God.
course.
So, when they're also doing training, should they be setting up those kinds of scenarios so they can actually practice what you just
Yes,
talked about?
100%. Do not just train in the nice little sterile, friendly environments. I don't just mean places that didn't have odor. I mean the places that don't have, but you train in places that are messy. Train in places that are distracting. Now, if I'm working complex, maybe I'm on the learning side. I'm on the acquisition side of learning like complex convergence, okay? I'm not going to go to the messy place, the distracting place, the place that's got 20 squirrels running up and down the trees, and then do the messy convergence puzzle because we're in acquisition. I'm going to do that in the nice, sterile, known location without a lot of distractions so they can focus on learning the skill. I'm going to take skills that are well within our wheelhouse, things that are part of our rotational training set, right? You know, I should have a set as soon as I've been training for a while, like a short period of time, I should already be building a set of rotational skills that my goal is just to do maintenance or maybe just slowly keep solidifying that foundation more and more. Those are the skills that I'm going to take into the messy place and I'm going to use those because they're well within the dog and the team's wheelhouse. We train that. Then once that's doing good, now I can start add challenges.
Perfect. So let's say that you did that. Let's say, like, okay, I'm listening to Judith, I'm doing everything she tells me. I have my wonderful rotational set of skills, and these are really solid. I go to the messy place, and gosh darn it, my dog is just so focused on the search, they're not getting distracted at all. So
Yay!
I know that would be a good thing, but so often we phrase it like, "Oh, I wanted the dog to get distracted. Why won't you get distracted?" It's like they're doing amazing, like it's okay. But they had an idea that they wanted to practice this. So how would you then help that person to so they could actually get the reps in, so they could understand how to maybe reset the dog and then to be able to potentially direct them into a productive space and then take that back seat again so the dog can lead?
Well, if I go to set up a search and I meant for it to be distracting and it's not distracting, then I need to if I'm the instructor, like, and I'm teaching somebody, then I need to immediately up my distractions, which I can be pretty inventive with. It depends on the instructor for how inventive they can be. If it's you and it's just not happening, like you should know what distracts your dog, but maybe you were wrong, or maybe your dog's just a rock star. Sometimes the first thing I'm going to say is that sometimes our dogs just rock it, or sometimes our dogs just not even that. Sometimes our dogs change what the goal of the search was, right? Typically it's the other way around where I go in thinking I'm going to do this really cool, complex, whatever. And suddenly my dog shows me a hole in my foundation. And I'm like, okay. And now my training plan for the day has just modified. And I back my happy ass up. But sometimes what actually happens is the dog shows me I can suddenly put more pressure on them in a different and more creative way. I can give them suddenly maybe I had super simple plumes out there and my dog's like, I don't care about the 50 squirrels that are like screaming at each other having territorial matches. Okay, cool. Maybe I'm suddenly going to add extensive blanks in between them, and I'm going to actively go search places that have nothing to do with anywhere I've put odor before I work my dog back into the odor. Or maybe I know what distracts my dog, and I'm going to say, oh, hey, like the squirrels aren't working, but I bet if I start throwing pine cones, like, or I start kicking pine cones while I'm walking behind them, or, I start like turning my body so that they have to actively ignore what I just said to follow odor or something like that, I can start putting pressure on them that way. Does that make
Perfect.
sense?
Yes, that
Okay.
absolutely makes sense. And I think, again, we're leading into another nice little question for you. When we're talking about this concept of supporting, coverage, and directing, what are some of the common pitfalls that you're noticing from teams when you're either instructing or when you're officiating trials?
Not recognizing when their dog was hunting versus walking through a space, not recognizing what a productive space actually was. As an example, maybe you're going through a search area and you're like, I need to hit all the corners, but you didn't recognize that the elevator bay was a corner because it was recessed in so it made its own little tiny microclimate that you should have got your dog into. Um, not recognizing, not having patience is a huge one. Like that one's huge. Um, not doing too much to help when you're offering support. Not quite understanding, like, it's not your goal is not to take over from the dog. Your job is to allow the dog to do their thing, and you're supporting them in that. And understanding you're not trying to find or guess where the hides are, they're finding the hides. You're helping them get where they can find the hides if the hide exists,
Perfect.
right?
And I think that's another really important distinction that, again, it sounds like it's semantics, but it's not. It's actually a really important thing for people to wrap their heads around. That, again, it's the dog that has the nose. So we'll see this with, I don't know if you've seen this. I know I've seen it plenty with little baby handlers who are just starting out, and you put out a search and all of a sudden they're looking underneath all the chairs or trying to look
Yeah.
underneath all the tables. It's like, okay, hang on. You're not the dog. So that's a really important thing for them to keep in mind. In trying to wrap up what we've been talking about today, what are some of the things that you want people to walk away from as far as thinking about these three concepts and the way they all kind of interplay or how they're necessary or required for everyone to do?
I want people to walk away thinking, what is a productive space? They can go out, they can take their little Cirrus with them, they can walk around, they can set hides and watch dogs. I don't want them going, I want people to learn to read the dogs, but I want you to take some time and actually watch, where did my dog get the line from? Where did they bounce off of? Where did they have odor but they couldn't source it? Like, what did they like, where is the picture moving? I want them to start watching their dogs, like watching where their dogs are getting odor, and start that'll help people really start seeing where potentially productive spaces are. So that's one. I and also huge for coverage, right? I want them to build patience and the ability to do nothing, right? Again, I walk away with the idea I'm going to do as little as possible and as much as I have to. It doesn't mean I'm not going to do anything if my dog needs me, but it's going to be, how little can I do? Can how much how lazy of a handler can I be? Like, that's probably not the best way to put it, but sometimes it helps people start to visualize what they need to do. Like, how little can you do? Can you sit on that table and not move? Right? Like, what do you have to do? So I want them to walk away with that. How little can I do and how much do I have to? And where is a productive space? Where is my dog getting a productive space? And then let's see. Coverage, support. What was the other one? Mind
Directing?
blank. Directing. Okay. And directing, I want you to try to wrap your brain around the idea that it's not just directing, it's team communication and shared language. All right? So it's not you do what I tell you. It's we're having a conversation. So I look at searches as an ongoing conversation with open dialogue between two individuals. The dog is talking to me the entire time, and I'm talking to the dog the entire time. Now, when I say I'm talking to the dog the entire time, it doesn't mean I'm actively talking to the dog. I might have to be the active listener, right? When we first go into the search, I'm not saying anything. The dog is talking to me and I'm actively listening. But that still means I'm part of an active dialogue between the dog and myself. And so when I'm stepping in to make these suggestions or these directions, I am also actively part of a conversation. I'm not making demands, I'm communicating, and they're communicating back. We're doing a task together.
The whole teamwork thing.
Yeah, I know. Imagine that.
So I want to thank you very much. This was awesome. If you guys have any questions related to these three topics, please make certain you put those inside the comments. We're still on with Judith for a little bit, but I wanted to give her an opportunity to talk about what she has going on because my goodness, Judith is a very busy little lady. And she just had a question and answer session through her business, Nose Dogs Detection Services, yesterday. So can you talk about some of the things you're offering with your question and answer sessions, your newsletter? Talk about all the things, Judith.
Sure. All right. Newsletter wise, it's a free resource. We try to put at least one educational article in it. We try to put at least a couple visuals or point you toward a couple visuals, whether it's one of the slow-mos that I recently did or something else. But we try to have several educational resources in each newsletter for you that don't cost anything. The Q&As, we're doing monthly Q&As. We've done 3 so far. We're going to do the next one is scheduled for May 20th. They're 1 hour. And basically what we do is everyone that signs up, we have them, if you want to, you're not required to, you can put NA in the question section if you don't want to give a question. But we encourage everybody to give us a question, and then we can't typically hit every question in the hour, but we try to hit as many as we can. We try to hit specific, unique questions. And then if we have like categories, like we had like 10 people ask us something along the lines of, what do I do if my dog falses? Then we'll try to hit that as a more generic answer so that we can do the best that we can. So that's that one. Super, super fun. Let's see. I have some stuff coming up with you, I think. A couple roundtables. Don't we have a couple roundtables coming up? Yeah,
Yep.
we have a couple.
We have a bunch of virtual events that Judith has been so awesome to participate in. Again, if you guys have been missing out on those, you are missing out. Make certain that you participate in those.
We have the new student session formats, which are super, super fun with the Zoom classes. I have been loving this new format for the classes. I think the next session for them that you can sign up for is
June 1st.
We don't have one June 1st. Okay. So the next one's for June 1st, but I have, right now I have a master's prep class and I have a detective prep class, and it is a blast, like for the community, talking to each other, communicating with each other. And then the classes have been amazing and really, really interactive with all the different people communicating, talking to each other, the questions that we've been having. And then some of the things that the students have been asking me to do have been really, really fun. Like I like how interactive these are. So highly recommend those. I'm judging several upcoming trials in May. I'm judging in California. I'm judging twice in Washington. I believe I just finished an in-person seminar in Pittsburgh. I'm doing a small group thing closed group thing in Philadelphia here this coming weekend. And then in June is my next seminar, and that one's in Washington at Four Paws Dog Works. And then I also have people getting on the schedule all over the country for this fall, like late summer, fall, and then next spring. So if you're looking, it doesn't matter where you are. I travel from coast to coast and top to bottom, border to border. So, I mean, again, I'm on the East Coast right now and I live in Nevada. So I go all the places. So.
Yes, Judith is very well traveled. As you can see, she's a very, very busy woman, but she is so incredibly experienced and talented. She's a wonderful teacher and trainer and speaker. I love hosting her. So anytime that you guys have an opportunity to trial under her or to train with her, you definitely want to take that up. But we have a whole bunch of questions that came in. Do you mind if I ask those to you?
Oh, please do.
Okay. So the first one is, how do you stop the dog from extending the hunt? During training, I know he knows where it is, but he won't alert right away, especially after he's found one and we're moving on to find number two.
Oh, okay, I follow. For a second, I was like, why would you want to stop the hunt? I get it. Like he likes hunting and he's kind of cataloging the hides. So a couple things there, and part of it depends on why he's doing it. Like, is he afraid that you're going to make him stop because he found a hide? And like you're like, oh, we found one, yay, party done. And the thing he really likes is hunt. Because if that's the case, I would really stress, that we can keep going. Yeah, in trial we can't, but in general, we can keep going after you find the one. We can keep hunting. That's cool with me. The other thing that I would really question from my diagnostics brain is, did you start or have you had consistently lots of hides out there? Because if you've had a bunch of hides out there, especially consistently from babyhood, then it's possible that he learned the habit of, I'm going to pick off all the easy ones and then maybe come back for the hard ones. It's a really common thing for sport dogs to learn. Um, and typically, if I'm having that type of issue, I go back to single hide searches until or dividing my search area into smaller single hide sections and saying we must finish this before we move on so that we actually build that. And the third thing I'm going to say that goes into it is I would look at my cycle of the hunt. And then when I'm looking at my uh, hunt, odor recognition, sourcing, sourced, decision, communication, that half of the cycle, I would say, and this depends on the dog and how solidified their alert is, but I may need to reward earlier in the cycle, even in sourcing, so that I can manufacture the start of a reward history so that I can now have something to build on to actually backtrack and then rebuild what that expectation is.
Perfect. Well done. Alrighty, we have some more questions. The next one is, what would you consider a vertical space in an exterior search? Would that include all the trees and the bushes?
Yes, but I'm not considerate when I say vertical space, I'm literally meaning space. It could be nothing. My A lot of my more experienced dogs or my detection dogs will literally just stand on their hind legs in the middle of a search area in open air. It has nothing to do with an item. Items are things to get lines off of, which are great, but vertical spaces are literally height, right? So dogs can work odor with nothing. They can work the molecules that are free floating on the air.
Perfect. And then we have another one. I train alone. If I have set hides, dog has found them all, but didn't go to an area or search a plane, would you then direct to that space?
Yes. So short answer is yes. Long answer is depending on what the purpose and goal of my training setup was or what my search plan was that day. So I should be setting every hide set that I do, even if my hide set is I pulled up to a field, opened the door, threw a tin out the window, went over, walked my dog on the other side of the truck, and then went and worked in the field to find the one tin before I take off to keep driving down the road. There is still a plan there, right? In that case, my plan typically would have been to work open areas, barren areas, or to work on my dog's ability to have obedience to odor with no items to work a line off of to source. So if I'm working a dog and depending on what my goal is, if it's not counteractive or counter to what my goal of the session is, I would make that my default response. That as a default, before I'm done with a search area, I will typically make sure we have area coverage, whether all hides are found or not.
Perfect. And then the final question that we have so far is, are your classes only focused on AKC trials? So the two classes that you're offering right now during this session are for masters and detective, but you do also
Okay.
offer self-taught classes that are in different topics as well. So did you want to talk about those two different types of classes?
Sure. So I do have several other classes that are currently in the on-demand piece instead of in the the live student sessions. Yes, the live student sessions are AKC specific right now. I will 100% tell you though that if someone pops up in like a detective class and they're doing elite, I will modify. I mean, a lot of the things that I talk about, the way I teach mine, will will translate, and I will help you do the translation. I don't care. If for me, it's about the skill sets, not about the specific, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And then I can also do something that's modified specifically to you. And if there's enough people that are interested, I'd be very happy to make some classes that were more specific to like NACSW or UKC or whatever that some people want. I just haven't had anybody specifically ask me for those.
Perfect. And Judith does offer for her self-taught the on-demand ones. She offers two. One is the now what do I do? How to make a dream team, and also concentrating on the game classes that are offered with United States Canine Sense Sports or USCSS. So can you talk a little bit about what you cover inside the now what do I do class?
So that one is a little bit more of a choose your own adventure. It does have the breakdown of, all right, we're training a behavior. How do we break the behavior down? How do we do diagnostics on it? How do we build a new behavior that we specifically want? Like anything within that realm of how do we break down, analyze, and rebuild or build a new behavior is what that class is focused on, which can really mean that you can go, again, you can make it a very much a choose your own adventure depending on what you want to build or break down. So that one's really, really fun. And you're right, I should totally consider adding that one into the live. I think that'd be really fun for some people.
Yeah,
Anyway,
absolutely.
yeah, I think that'd be really fun. And then the USCSS games one that was just all right. One of my absolute favorite things about USCSS is the games, because there's so many different things you can do with them, even though they have set rules, and they're so good for like they break us out of our I am trialing now thing, right? Like we can go play and we can do stuff and we can challenge ourselves in a new way, and we can experience things that maybe we wouldn't normally do. And it actually helps proof our dogs and grow our dog's ability as well as our ability. And so that specific class is just focused on what the different games are and how to play them and all that type of stuff. So
Perfect. And yes, absolutely. Definitely make certain that you check those things out. Judith does a really nice job talking about how you can train and prepare for those games. But those skills are so helpful for the dog and the handler. Really, really
it,
highly recommend.
even if you never, ever, ever want to do USCSS or it's not in your area or whatever, that class is a really fun class, or the skill sets that you learn in that class are really fun. And you can apply them to all sorts of things, whether you're training by yourself or whether you're an instructor and you're looking for new ways to challenge and help your class grow. Because one of the things I think about as an instructor is, how do I challenge, just like how do I do as little as possible and as much as I have to for a dog? I'm always thinking, how can I challenge my students so that they have pressure on them to grow and always make sure that they're successful? So I'm all about like, it's not always about easy, but it is about success and knowing that you faced the challenge, met the challenge, and succeeded or overcame the challenge. So hopefully in
Absolutely.
a fun way.
Yes. Fun is always good. We don't no crying or dying in Scent work. That's not allowed. We want to build little resilient and well-rounded little handlers that aren't falling apart in the middle of their searches.
Yeah.
And one final question as we're starting to wrap up. So will there be another master prep class after the detective prep?
Yes.
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 So we'll
I
be
haven't
offering
quite
that again in June 1st. But go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I haven't quite I feel like over the next year or so, as I figure out this new class, the new way we're doing these classes, I'll probably come up with some sort of rotation through a couple different classes. I'm also sneak peek, I'm also building a couple other classes. I don't know when they will debut, but I am building a couple other classes as well as some new webinars. So all of that stuff will be coming, but the things that I'm already teaching will repeat themselves.
Perfect. Well, Miss Judith, you have been awesome as always. You are absolutely spectacular. And because of that, we're going to be giving you
Yay! I got a prize.
Yes, you did very, very well. I want to thank you also very much for joining us for our live stream today. As we're starting to wrap up, I just wanted to make one final little pitch for all of you, and that is for an upcoming webinar that is coming up for one of our other fantastic instructors, Cara Schiffner. She is also has professional and sport detection background. She is an amazing instructor. She's so good. She's just like Judith as far as so talented. Setwork University is incredibly fortunate to be working with so many talented people. But Cara is coming in June in order to talk about supporting versus interfering, becoming a better handler. So I'm just going to put a link inside of the comments for you guys so you can check this out. This is scheduled for June, and that's one I love. What everything that Judith was talking about inside this little live stream is a wonderful way of really making sure we're all talking about this the same way and that we're all starting off on the right foot. So definitely encourage you all to check that out, but also make certain that you're checking out everything that Judith has offered through Setwork University. She has a very large library. We're talking like many things. Webinars, courses. She's done the virtual event. She's been so incredibly generous with all of her time and her expertise. And as you can see, she's very experienced. She's very talented. She's also a very good instructor and teacher, and she's a very good colleague. And I really appreciate everything that she's done because Judith is awesome.
Yay. And I highly recommend that you take Cara's course. Like, she is really good. She's really knowledgeable, and it's definitely a really good perspective. So if you're even an inkling of a question of if you should take it, my vote, take it.
Perfect. All right, everyone. As you can hear, my tiny terrier, he's done being inside the box. And poor Judith's cats are like, we want to go chase birds. So we're going to let everyone do all the things. So thank you also very much for joining us for our live stream today. Please give a cookie to your puppies for us. Happy training. We look forward to seeing you all soon.